Well, now we get to some episodes. Well, I was going to say the ones that kind of gave me my impression of not liking the early seasons of Next Generation. And a lot of that was coupled with there's only one Star Trek and the feelings of that. And that was pretty overwhelming at the time. But, Next Generation had time, at least in those days. The show had time to win people over, which eventually it did. So this episode, Coming of Age, is, I wouldn't say it's totally a Wesley show, and it's probably not that bad of a Wesley show, but it's his first testing for a future in Starfleet Academy. And of course he's brilliant, so he's one of a few candidates who get the super duper pooper scooper tests, and that's his part of it. The show is split between two different plot points. Of course, the title is for Wesley, coming of age and all this, but it's not all that much. There's not much to it. He goes and meets these other students. He meets this girl who could not act to save her life. I don't know what happened to her. If she was the daughter of somebody and got a walk-on role here, but it was sure she was a nice girl and hopefully became a nice lady and had a happy life, or has one rather. But oh man, that was some pretty bad acting. Everybody else was okay, and they do their little tests or whatnot, but ultimately the main thing is some psychological tests, and it's just a setup for how would Wesley respond in a rescue mission. And he actually does that one okay, but based on how it is, he saves the guy he can't save the other guy, and he deals with it. And of course it's set up to where he doesn't realize he thinks it's real and that kind of thing. But anyway, and so, okay, fine. There wasn't a whole lot to it. He helps out this other student who ends up beating Wesley to go on to win the post in the academy, and Wesley will have to try again next year and all that. Plus, had he succeeded, he would leave the show, which, damn it, Wesley, why couldn't you have passed that test and go away? But it didn't work out that way, and the guy who went off, and he was like, he felt kind of bad about it. He said, no, actually Wesley should have won, and Wesley, no, it's all fair and square and all that. So, okay, fine. The other story is more of a setup for what was to come later about this weird alien species that was invading the Federation and taking it over, and damn near did until, Picard and Riker put an end to that. And it's not clear that that's the case here. It's just his old mentor, an admiral, coming and offering him a job offer because he wanted him nearby, because he was getting kind of paranoid and thinking there's something wrong with the Federation, but he couldn't quite figure out what it was. And later on, we will see what it was and all of that. But it appears at that point, he was not taken over by the parasites, nor was his, Mr. Remick, or what are they, his investigator, and all that. And the rest of it was just, he's going around doing his interrogations, and the crew doesn't like it, and that's about it. There's a rescue scene where Wesley's buddy, whom we've never seen before and never will again, didn't make the cut to get to the final test that Wesley was going to, and he felt like a failure, so he decides to steal a shuttlecraft and run away to join the Merchant Marines or whatever. And it all goes wrong, but Picard is able to talk him down to save himself from the shuttle malfunction and all that. So he saves them, and Mr. Remick is impressed by this, and they say, well, that's why Picard, is well beloved and respected and all that. But for the most part, Picard was the subject of it, and to have the Admiral, clear it for him to trust Picard, and he offered him this position to be the headmaster at the Academy, and promote him to Admiral. And Picard turned it down. He wants to stay on the ship and all that. And so that's where they left it. And not a whole lot happens, but in context of the season, you realize this was something of a setup they were thinking of for later episodes to pay off. But for this particular episode, it's just, hey, look, Picard knows his stuff. And Wesley does his little test, and then he feels bad that he didn't make it, and then Picard reassures him and lets him know that he didn't make it the first time around either, so that's just between the two of us, and all that kind of thing. And so it's more of an establishment that, for all intents and purposes, Picard has become Wesley's, surrogate father at this point, which is all well and good. It's just a very bland episode that didn't really need it. It could have moved on. And all of that. So, okay. The next episode is much better, and it applies to a question that had to have come up about, it says, well, this is in the future, and the Klingons and the Federation get along, and there's no war between them and everything. And it's this curious thing about, well, how would the Klingons ever come to this agreement? And of course, they ended up fleshing that out in the movies and everything. But culturally and whatnot, and that their love of war, which I think they should have expanded upon that there were other aspects of Klingon society and that sort of thing, and that the warrior class was very respected and all that. But there were other elements of their society. Otherwise, I don't see how they would have developed everything so much when everybody's trying to be the greatest warrior ever and all that type of thing. But anyway, it certainly would have been a big aspect of their society, and of course, this is something you have to address, where you have Worf very present as part of the Enterprise crew. And it's like, what's the deal here? And so you've got these wayward Klingons they come upon, and why are they out here? And they stole this ship, and what's the problem? And the problem is that they can't stand their new civilized life. They want to go out and conquer and all that sort of thing. And the idea of just dying of old age is appalling to them. And so first, they encounter Worf. And they're like, hey, what's this all about? And Worf says, that his parents died and he was adopted by a human family and this sort of thing. And you get a little more backstory about Worf. He mentions his brother, so on and so forth. And but they're fugitives from Klingon law, and they've come to collect them. They try to break free. They ask Worf to join them, and of course he won't. But he ultimately gives the guy his fighting death as the guy's pulled a weapon, and Worf shoots him with a phaser, and he dies. And the last one to survive. There were 3 originally, but they all get killed. So they kind of got their wish, And then they have the Klingon death scene where they open the eyes of the dead body and wait for him to breathe his last, and then they scream at the ceiling. Well, all right. To warn the afterlife that a Klingon is coming. But the whole thing was that I always get a chuckle out of it, because it's not, it's much better than the coming of age episode. And this isn't, I was a bit mistaken in saying that these were examples of why I didn't like the show. This one's actually not that bad. And it addresses this business about the Klingons and how they are now and all that sort of thing. But I read the Mad Magazine parody of Next Generation, and there's a scene in there where a Klingon warrior comes up to Worf, and he says, what are you doing here? I can't believe it, a Klingon serving in the Federation. And Worf says, well, the Federation's been good to me. I've got a great retirement plan, including dental. And the Klingons, I can't believe it, a Klingon yuppie. And that's pretty much the plot of the show. And so, well, yeah, Worf's got a pretty good thing going here, just to go off and get killed. What for? Yeah. So anyway, it's the position they're in. Of course, not to worry, there were plenty of wars coming. a civil war, then the Dominion War. So rest assured, the Klingons would have plenty of chances to die in battle in later episodes of the Next Generation era. So don't worry. But it's sort of the beginnings of Worf's overall story, which becomes very, very significant for the Next Generation run. Just for the Federation and the Empire overall, and so it's sort of the seeds of it have already been put in place here. Not that they had a whole idea already, but it's a start, and it's a bit. You get a little bit of Worf's backstory there to flesh him out a little more there. So yeah, it's not bad. It's not that bad of an episode. It's not one of the best, but certainly for the first season, which I think is rather weak, but still, this was a pretty good effort, and a necessary one for the state of affairs for the Klingons in the Next Generation era. So there you go, coming of age and heart of glory.